Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we'll be talking about the Denver Broncos and their offseason plan that I've laid out for them this offseason. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. Let's get into it. Minnesota Vikings right here. So, with the Minnesota Vikings, obviously they still have Sean Payton. They currently have negative $23 million in cap space, but we're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that right up. First off, we're gonna be releasing Russell Wilson. Obviously, when we start in the negative, instead of doing the re-signings first, I always do the cuts and trades first. So what we're gonna do is cut Russell Wilson as they're gonna do in real life. Russ this year at 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Got benched the last 2 weeks of the season. In my opinion, he wasn't the issue. I thought Russ was actually having a really solid bounce back year. Yes, he's not the Russ of old, but he was definitely still a competent starting level quarterback. Probably still a fringe top 10 quarterback this past season. But that's just, they wanted to try and cut him. They didn't want to risk any injury. They wanted him to take less money. So easy to get cut, easy to go to a new team next season. Sean and crew were cutting him no matter what. They came into this season saying we're going to cut Russell Wilson unless we're 14-0, unless we're one of the best teams in the NFL. We're cutting Russ. But they didn't give him the tools to be the number one team in the NFL. He incurs an $85 million dead cap this year, but then doesn't have any dead cap for the rest of his contract. And he saves $17 million in cap space with a post-June 1st cut. So they're going to designate him as a post-June 1st cut, take the full $85 million this year, have one bad season, and then next year have all that money back. And while I do think it's a scummy thing to do, I took that into account when doing the contracts of free agents and re-signings, is that when you mess with one person's money, the entire NFL world sees what you're doing and will know how scummy you're being. So then you have to overpay for certain talent. And I think that, Russ does get cut. I think he can go to another team and continue, the level of play he had. Because I don't think he was the reason they failed this year. Get him a competent offensive coordinator, and he succeeded. The next trade I'm going to be doing is Garrett Bowles. He had a 76 PFF grade, 84 pass blocking, 64 run blocking, 8 penalties and 3 sacks this season. Yes, the penalties have always been a little high for Garrett Bowles, but when he's on the field, he's one of the better left tackles in the league. Dude hates his team. He said in an interview this season, hey, he's sick of losing. All he's done since he come to Denver Broncos is lose. Was irked by how Russ' job went down. He didn't like how the Russ hit job went down from Sean Payton and the front office. He was very vocal about yeah, I don't agree with it. That's kind of messed up. He's going to net a positive asset for this team, which I think is going to be something very good. And you can save $16 million with a trade. You don't actually save any money because, in my opinion, the trade that we're going to be doing is the Denver Broncos trading Garrett Bowles to the Cleveland Browns for Jed Wills and a 5th-round pick. Now, I do this trade because the Denver Broncos then get a younger asset that maybe they can develop into something better, and the Browns get a starting level tackle. Right? Jed Wills has had his issues the last few years. This season, obviously, had a major injury happen, but he's always been a really solid a run blocker. He's just always struggled at pass blocking. I feel if he can go to another scheme, maybe they can develop him into something, but you're not going to know until you make that trade. I think if you do a Garrett Bowles swap, you do win that a little bit immediately. Maybe Jed Wills can develop on the other team better than he has on the Cleveland Browns. But with Bill Callahan, one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time, it's kind of hard to see him actually developing with another guy. But maybe, it's just the way that Bill talks to his guys. Maybe Jed needs something different. But I may be doing this trade so you get a younger tackle that is on a 5th-year option that after the season you can just let walk and you get a comp pick back, or you re-sign him because he's developed and you get a 5th-round pick. I think that's a pretty solid trade for both parties. The next cut I'm going to be doing is Tim Patrick, which does suck. I like Tim Patrick. He's had a brutal injury streak, man. 2 years in a row with torn ACLs on different feet. He saved $9 million cutting him. Hopefully he can land somewhere else and prove to be the guy that he was from that 2019 to 2021 stretch. He saved $9.5 million. I think it would suck for him to do it, but I don't see them keeping him at $9 million. I just don't see it happening. And Jerry Jeudy, I'm doing one more trade with Jerry Jeudy. He had 54 receptions for 758 yards and 2 touchdowns this past season. He sees a fresh start elsewhere. Whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's his own, he can't get out of his own head. I think he needs a different coach that can really bring out the talent in him. He had a solid season, just not great. About 800 yards is really good for a wide receiver too. I think he can unlock that wide receiver 1 in him by going to another team, different coaching, different schemes. You can get something back for him. You save $13 million trading him. So I decided to do a trade to the New York Giants, who need wide receiver help. I think Jerry Jeudy plays a different wide receiver role than the rest of the guys on their roster. Jalen Hyatt, the deep threats. What's his name? Oh my gosh. Wandale Robinson, the slot guy. You have Jerry Jeudy as an outside, big body receiving threat, and you only get him for a 4th-round pick. The Broncos move off him, save $13 million. The Giants get a low cost, high upside trade. I think both sides would win that trade. Then the restructures. I think so. When I do restructures, I always say that I want to make a trade. I mean, a restructure for guys that I see are going to be on the team in 2 years, right? So Zach Allen, I see him on the team in 2 years. You save $9.4 million. Mike McGlinchey, I see him on the team in 2 years. He saved 10.4. Cortland Sutton, I see him retiring a Denver Bronco, 5.9. And Ben Powers, you just signed him. You could get better at guard, but I can see him on the team in 2 years. You save 7.2. You get plus $33 million to then go into free agency. I mean, to go into re-signings with $65 million net positive. And the first re-sign that we're going to be doing is Lloyd Cushenberry, their starting center. He had a 73 PFF grade, 76 pass blocking, a 72 run blocking grade, 5 penalties and 1 sacks. Again, I would like the penalties to go down for this offensive line. But he's been a top 10 center for a few years now, really underrated. He's developed nicely in Denver. Best year was with Sean Payton. Might as well keep it going. So I gave him a 3-year, $47.5 million deal with $28.5 million guaranteed. That's 60% on the dot. I just think, why would you mess with a good thing if you're going to keep it going? Like, you need offensive linemen. You need good ones. Lloyd Cushenberry has proved to be a really good all-around center. So why not just extend him, keep him, and, again, show this team that if you play well for this team, we're going to keep you on this team. Then we're going to keep Josey Jewell. He had 67 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 33 run stops. He's been a great linebacker for his defense. He's retained talent that makes, what we need to do, as I said with Lloyd Cushenberry, we need to retain talent that makes the team better. And Josey Jewell, for the last couple of years, has held down that linebacker room, has been the consistent, 100 tackles, 80 tackles, 90 tackles, 80 tackles type of guy. And he become the first linebacker paid this offseason if he does hit free agency. I would put good money on it that he's the first inside linebacking, non-pass rushing linebacker that gets signed. So I gave him a 3-year, $37.5 million deal, $23.5 million guaranteed. That's 62% of it guaranteed. I think it's pretty solid for Josey Jewell. Maybe a little that might be a little cheap for him, because I do see him becoming immediately one of the highest paid free agents this offseason. Then I'm bringing back little Jordan Humphrey. He had 13 receptions for 162 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sean Payton loves little Jordan Humphrey, so I think that is one reason why he would keep him. But he's been a really solid run blocker. When he's out on the field, he does get thrown to a couple of times, obviously, but he's a great depth red zone threat. So when he's on the goal line, you don't know if you're running the ball or you're passing the ball. I think that's really something that you want in your offense, is that kind of versatility when he's on the field. Like, hey, when we're in the red zone and little Jordan Humphrey's out there, we might be blocking, but we might just throw him a quick, high slant route, and he's gonna come down with it. And he has some speed to him, but he's definitely more of that red zone threat. So I think giving him a 1-year, $2.5 million deal makes a good amount of sense for this team. Then the next thing I want to bring back is PJ Locke. He had 30 tackles, 1 interception, 12 stops, and 3 sacks. He was a solid find from Denver. I think this is his 2nd season. I think he was an undrafted free agent. He's heavily trusted by Sean Payton and the defensive coordinator. He won't be too expensive to retain. He plays a big role for the secondary. I didn't want to commit a full 2-3 year deal to him, so I decided to give him another 1 year kind of now you're the full-time starter. Let's see what you can do. Because originally it was Justin Simmons and the veteran safety who kept getting suspended, which I cannot remember his name now, but he kept getting suspended. So then PJ Locke got thrust into the starter job. I want to see a full offseason of PJ Locke being the starter, and if he plays the exact same next season, then I'd give him a 4-year contract to see what he can do. But going into free agency, we spent about $30 million. We still have 36.3. The first signing I'm going to be doing is Jacoby Brissett. You need a quarterback after cutting Russ. Jacoby Brissett had 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions in the 2 games he played this year. And last year, in the 11 games he played, he had 2,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions in the 11 games last year with Cleveland. I think he's a great QB, especially for a bridge quarterback. I think he's one of the best options available. And for QB sneaks, he's also an elite threat. He may not be the Jalen Hurts QB threat, but I do think that Jacoby Brissett, the way he's built and the way that he uses his legs is underrated. And I mean, literally, when Deshaun Watson came back, we still put Jacoby Brissett out there because of how good he was at QB sneaks. He had like a 93% completion percentage when it came to QB sneaks for the Browns. He's a solid starter to steady the ship. Again, you can trust him for a year or two to be that, 18 touchdowns to 11 interceptions and 3,500 yards. This is to keep your offense moving. He's reliable, and he's an occasional big play merchant. You can count 2 or 3 times a game. Jacoby's going to throw a deep ball that might be a touchdown, but it might also be a pick. And I think that's something that you're willing to bet on every time, because more times than not, it'll be a touchdown, or at least a big play. So I gave him a 2-year, $28 million deal, $21.5 million guaranteed. 76% of that is guaranteed. As I said, for free agents, you're going to have to overpay a little bit because what you did to Russell Wilson is straight up. Then we're going to be bringing in Jerry Jacobs. He had 51 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 15 stops. He's a good young quarterback. The fact that he was a UDFA when he came out is insane with how well he played this year. He can start opposite of Patrick Surtain. That's another issue with this defense. You haven't really found that reliable cornerback number 2. And again, former UDFA, he's proved that he can be a really solid starter. I think he can go somewhere and get a big payday. So I gave him a 4-year, $52.5 million deal, $32.5 guaranteed. That is 62%. A little bit of an overpay. I think Jerry Jacobs is more in the 10 mil range, but like 10, 11, 12, 13. But I decided to give him 11, 13, 13, 14. A little bit of an overpay, a little bit more guaranteed money than I'd like. But I think you have to overpay for guys. And again, another guy I keep mocking to different teams is Josh Reynolds. He had 40 receptions for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think he's just a solid wide receiver 3 who can come in and catch reliably and more times than not. He's a great replacement of Judy and Patrick. So you have Cortland Sutton, you have Josh Reynolds, you have Marvin Mims. That's a more interesting core to me than Judy and Patrick. He's shown he can be in the right place at the right time. Sure, he had a bad NFC Championship game, but does not ruin the entirety of his season and last season. But I do think it could stay due to Jared Goff staying, due to Ben Johnson staying, due to Aaron Glenn staying. I think he might want to run it back with Detroit. But I decided to give him a 2-year, $19 million deal, $12 million guaranteed, with 63% of that being guaranteed. I do see him returning back to Detroit for probably less than $7 million. But if he wants to get his money, I think this is the offseason to get his money. Then going on to the draft, we have $8 million to work with, which is about what you want to do with, we want around 9 to 10 preferably, but we have a lot of late round picks, so it's going to be cheaper than the earlier round picks. But at number 12, I do grab Kool-Aid McKinstry. I thought about tackle, but then I realized, wait a minute, I traded for Jed Wills, and you paid, Mike McGlinchey all that money last offseason, so I don't see that happening. Maybe later in the draft, as you can see, I don't draft a tackle either, but maybe later in next year's draft, or if you wanted to swap out one of these picks for a tackle to develop someone. But I decided to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry's still the best cornerback in this class in my books. I think he's a lockdown corner. He has the size, he has the athleticism, he has the ball hawking skills, but he doesn't bite on those bad routes. Good balance, good hips. I think Kool-Aid's gonna be the best quarterback in this class. And I understand like Quinion Mitchell's moving up. I can't think of anyone. Terrion Arnold as well as teammates, but I still think Kool-Aid is the number 1 corner in this class. Then at number 76 in the 3rd round, I decided to grab Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think he's a top 2 linebacker in this class. 53 tackles, great pass rusher, run defender, and coverage guy in the 3rd round. You're not going to find many of those guys in the 3rd round that can do it all. I think Jeremiah Trotter is going to be wanted by almost every NFL team. And if he can make it to 76, you take him. Then at 107, with a trade from Jerry Jeudy, I do grab Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. I think Cooper Beebe is one of the solid guards in this class. He's proved even more this year. He played at both tackle positions as an addition to left guard this year. The team needs a left guard of the future. He's a top 100 prospect. Outside of 100 is always good. I have Cooper Beebe also as like probably in the high 80s, low 90s. So the fact that you can get him at 107 is amazing. And PFF doesn't even rate him as high as I do, and I still think it's great value for you. I can be a starter in the future. I can be, maybe year 1 can start, but I'd feel very confident year 2 after he builds up some more muscle mass. Then at 113, I do grab Tyler Davis from Clemson. Tyler Davis had 2 sacks. He played both D tackle positions, A gap, B gap, and nose tackle. He's a great run defender. He played great at Clemson. And I think next to Zach Allen and DJ Jones, his job gets so much easier. And I think Jeremiah Trotter and Tyler Davis were the better parts of that Clemson front seven. So the fact that you get both guys within the top 113 picks, that's pretty solid value for you. Then Malik Mustafa, the safety from Wake Forest. Malik, he played both safeties and slot. What I say every single time I make a video, versatility, versatility, versatility is something that I pride my scouting on. And Malik Mustafa played all three positions. He had 62 tackles and a pick. He has high upside with a fourth round. He potentially could be a significant role player. Maybe he can play some slot corner year one. Maybe he can play some third safety nickel packages. Maybe he can place him in some box linebacker. But Malik Mustafa will find a way to get on the field. I stand on that. Then Dalen Holker in the fifth. He had 64 receptions, 766 yards, 6 touchdowns. He used to be used heavily in the passing game, and I think that can carry over to the NFL. Obviously, you have tight ends that you like on the roster, but Dalen Holker was used heavily in college. He can be used heavily in the NFL. I think he can produce almost immediately. And I think he can develop as a run defense, as a run blocker. He's not the best at it right now, but I do think he has a frame to develop into that. Not every guy comes in the NFL ready to catch and block. Sometimes it takes a few years for that to develop. Look at David Njoku. Was one of the worst run blocking tight ends for the first 2-3 years of his career, and he's really turned it around to be one of the best run blocking tight ends. Then at 205, the pick you get from the Browns in that Jed Wills Garrett Bowles swap, I grabbed Khalid Duke out of Kansas State, another Kansas State guy. He's a solid run defender. He had 6 sacks, 18 hurries to add on top of his run defending skills. He played both over the tackle and outside tackle, so he has inside and outside versatility on the defensive line, which again, I like versatility. I like guys who can swing inside the D-line, outside the D-line. I would probably have him more primarily as an outside pass rusher, not as an inside bull rusher. I think Khalid Duke out of Kansas State is going to get a lot of hype through the pro days, through combine. He might end up being a 4th round, maybe even a 3rd round pick, but Khalid Duke has everything that you want in a late round draft pick that has high potential. Then, for fun, at 233, I decided to grab a quarterback. I got Devin Leary from Kentucky. Leary had 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He's a gunslinger at Kentucky, basically, and I think Sean Payton loves the gunslingers, that mold of a quarterback. He has great average depth of target. He's great in a clean pocket. What I like in these really late round quarterbacks is, are you throwing the ball deep downfield, right? He was great at depth of targets. Not great at depth of reception, but maybe, I think with NFL weapons, you could see maybe a perennial backup in Devin Leary. I don't see him as a starter, but I do see him as hey, he likes to throw the ball downfield, likes to be aggressive, but maybe can be too aggressive at times. Can you coach him up to be aggressive when it matters? I think that's something that you can definitely do. He's going to have a strong arm at his pro day. I'm excited to see where he goes in the draft. He's definitely not a day 2 pick. He's a day 3 pick. But Aiden O'Connell was a day 3 pick, and he played really good for the Raiders. Could Devin Leary be another example of, what? This season, we're 4-8, 4-9 in the NFL season. Let's start Devin Leary, see what we got in the 7th round rookie. Then in the 7th round, I grabbed Jawar Jordan out of Louisville. Jawar Jordan and his teammates, Godaro, both running backs are really good. I wouldn't be shocked if they both hit, they both are rotational players in the NFL. But Jawar Jordan had 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. And that includes 6 yards a carry. That's great for a D1 program, especially Louisville, they're always good. They're always fun to watch. You always have a really interesting offense. I like Jawar Jordan. I like the Louisville team always. 13 touchdowns. He was solid after contact. He has experience in receiving as well. He's just a fun player to watch. And I think that this offense needs more fun players to watch and root for. And I think whether it is Jacoby Brissett, whether it is a rookie quarterback, you just need to get more weapons for the offense. And that's why I decided to go with Dalen Holker. I went with Jawar Jordan. Guys that are versatile on the offense, who can play, who can play really well in short yardage plays and red zone plays. And that's what I really wanted to do with this team. I think I really did achieve that. And I think I achieved it very well. But if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification button to be notified when I post next. That's the Denver Broncos, man. They could be really good next year, but they could also just continue the cycle of being mediocre. I would bet more on them being better because they went 8-9, 9-8 with Russ, and then with Jarrett Stidham. So maybe with a more consistent, this is the guy all year and a better team, they can be even better. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.